So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Good night, everyone, and welcome to the Love of Paul McGrath podcast, in one of probably what could be described as our most impromptu podcasts of all time. Myself and Paddy sitting at home doing nothing, going, I haven't spoken to you in ages, Paddy. It's 10 o'clock. Is there anybody actually up at this hour on the Sunday? And I was just trying to relax. I was trying to get my chakras and my whole everything back in order again before the week ahead. And I said, yeah, Paddy, let's go live. Let's have a little chat. I am just trying to relax here with a nice little drop of Irish water. And Paddy himself seems to have some libations, I think the word is, on the go at the moment as well. But Paddy, listen, how are you doing? I haven't spoken to you in God knows how long. I can't even remember the last time we did a podcast together. It's definitely over a week anyway.
Yeah, I'd say it was the Team Sheet Tantrum, was it? Or the aftermath?
Jesus, yeah. That would have been it. The post-match after Man City would have been the last. Yeah, so a week ago.
A week ago, yeah. It's been a busy
week. Is a long time in football, Paddy.
It's a long time in podcasting anyway, especially when you're around when there could be 10 podcasts in a week.
Yeah. It's actually, I've kind of felt idle this week. Well, in a way, I've kind of felt liberated, but I've also felt idle this week with no podcasting to do. But as I said, the God, is it God makes work for idle hands, or the devil makes word for? I can't remember what the phrase is anyway. But I've got a couple of ideas for next week anyway for podcasts. So keep an eye out for those as well. And hopefully we get through them as well. But yeah, and even in that week, Paddy, there's been a lot that's gone on. You know, Chelsea have a new manager. We still have our same manager.
And Britain has a king, which hasn't happened, I presume, in anybody that listens to this podcast's lifetime. So
close enough to it, yeah.
Yeah. So
I know it would be interesting to know, guys. DM me. What age? Who's the oldest person here now? And don't act a maggot and don't say I'm the oldest at 39. Yeah. Is there anyone like in their 80s that listens to this podcast? Because that'd be look, guys, if you're coming here for intellectual conversation tonight, park your brain at the door. It ain't happening. Tonight's the nightcap for a reason, and it's just one to kind of just ease our way into the week ahead at 10 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon.
Well, I tell you, the oldest person I know is I went to the Everton game a few weeks ago, as you know.
Yes.
And I was standing at the bar, and this guy was on a kind of a Zimmer frame kind of thing. I called him Zimmer frame, but had wheels on it. And
walking aid, I think.
Walking aid, and you can sit on it and everything. And this fella was sitting at the bar with it, and he was calling a drink, and he goes to me, Paddy. I went, hi, how are you? And he goes, my name is John. I'm 81 years of age, and I watch you guys on YouTube. And I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And I said, how did you even find it? So he beckoned over his 14-year-old grandson or great grandson. I can't remember exactly. So I'm sorry for doing you the service, John. And the great grandson, I think it was a great grandson, was telling me all about the Irish heritage and where it all came from, and he had put the 81-year-old John onto listening to the podcast and watching the podcast, so he could manage YouTube. He wasn't great with the podcast apps, but he could manage YouTube. So he's the oldest that I know that watches or listens to the podcast.
Well, 81 is the bar, and I might just cut up this part and put it out on Twitter and see, can we find anyone older than 81? Because this could be a new giveaway, Paddy. This could be something whereby we could award every year saying that if we were to award the oldest person every year, that's a small bit. That could turn out to be a small bit Yeah, there's bits and pieces in that I think that we might need to revisit, but it's an interesting concept because for a while actually it was a really funny one, not a funny one, but it was one that kind of irked myself and Paddy, because sometimes you look at the YouTube statistics, the analytics, and look, guys, once again, if you came here for intellectual conversation, it ain't going to happen tonight. But we look at the YouTube analytics and stuff like that. We first started putting this on YouTube, but I used to say to Paddy, like, I go, Paddy, no one under the age of 35 listens to this. And we haven't had a female by YouTube statistics. We haven't had a female listen to this at all. It's like 6 months into the podcast. And I know Anne is here now. And Anne, like, I was going, and then like, I was going, my man watched it last night, but it's not registered. Like, what's the story? Are we just repulsive to the female nation? And then I got thinking, I started looking into the algorithm, and I was going, but if they're not signed in, they're not going to know that they're female. So, yeah, then it was like good. But then over time, the sample set grew bigger, and I'm delighted to announce that over 15% of our audience are female now, Paddy. Over 15% of our audience are female. Yeah, which is fantastic.
Anne makes a lovely point there that we got a shout out on Instagram from the legend Paul McGrath himself today.
Yeah,
who was asked by somebody, was he aware that there was an Irish Aston Villa podcast named after him? And he was able to rattle off the name of our podcast, which I thought was very impressive.
Yeah, so fair play to him.
So if you're listening in, Paul, you're more than welcome, and you're more than welcome to join us on the screen anytime you like.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's always a chair here waiting. And actually, before we go any further, you were speaking about John, the 81-year-old guy you met over at the Everton game. I don't know if they're listening to this podcast at all, but I just happened to be talking to I've been doing some acting on the side, and it was kind of a break in rehearsals that we were doing, and we went to coffee shop or whatever to get a sandwich, and there was this guy there, and he had his two kids, and the two kids were wearing Coutinho jerseys, and as they were walking past, I just kind of stopped them. I said, that's good parenting, because these two kids are look like they're two well-reared kids. It goes, and I was like, up the Villa, like that. So I never got your names or anything like that. So if you are watching or if you are listening, this is me, the guy that accosted you in Brasco, Aaron Oranmore, to say fair play to you, and keep supporting Villa. Whatever happens, do not fall into the clutches of another team, because while you may win more games supporting the likes of City or Arsenal or Chelsea or whoever the hell, you won't have as much fun as if you follow Aston Villa, because all you got to do is win once to go celebrating. That's all you got to do when you're an Aston Villa fan, and that's why we do it. And as Sean says there, yeah, we won Division 3.
Well, I just like to just for Sean, because I reckon he could be well, he might not be, but he's the oldest one that's admitting to the group. So here you go, Sean. That's for you. Here's Sean. I don't like those cryptic ones where I have to go back and count people's age. So if you don't want to put it there, Sean, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah. But I suppose, Paddy, look, with regards to what's going on in the league at the moment, and we get chatting on that. And look, guys, there's going to be no flow to this. Myself and Paddy didn't even decide what we're going to talk about. But like the one big thing I wanted to chat to Paddy about is because the merry-go-round, the managerial merry-go-round, has started in earnest, and I don't think it's going to be as active as everybody might think it's going to be. But Thomas Tuchel is no longer in a job with Chelsea, and I want, first of all, we're going to take the two bits of news. We'll take the Graham Potter piece afterwards, Paddy. Talk to me about Thomas Tuchel. How you feel? What do you think he brought to the Premier League? What did you make of him as a guy and as a manager when he was here? Because he seems to be pretty polarizing when you look at any of the social media apps.
Do you know what? When he came first, I really liked the guy. I liked listening to him. I thought there was an openness and an honesty about him. And then he got salty very quickly, which annoys me a little bit. And I think the ruination of him was that little spat he had with Conte on the sideline. It was just a little bit weird. People have asked me would I like Tuchel at Aston Villa. The answer is I don't think so. No.
My thing about that. Sorry, go on. Sorry, and I'll shoot in after.
No, go on. You go.
I was going to say, I think it was more so I don't think the spat with Conte was more so the issue. I think he struggled when Bowley came in, and there seemed to be people signing players left, right, and centre, and I don't think that stuck well with him. I actually personally believe, I think he wanted to keep, I think he would have wanted to keep and work with Timo Werner. And I think Timo Werner wanted to go. I think somebody ruffled his feathers. And I'm on record as saying, I think Timo Werner would have been splendid in this Aston Villa team. Like Paddy has all the receipts for it. Like all last year, I was messaging him going, "Oh Jesus, I'd love Timo Werner in this forward line. Oh my God, I think he'd be absolutely brilliant." Because while he wasn't scoring for Chelsea, I thought Chelsea were almost too pernickety for him, and he needed to kind of be given that moment of where he could get the ball, carry the ball from deep, and do something outrageous. Because he's a really skillful player. It's just like he's the kind of fellow who needs to be gotten on the ball to get into the game. And when that wasn't happening, he was missing chances. And yes, he should be putting some of those chances away. But anyway, that's Timo Werner. So when we get to Thomas Tuchel, I think when these players are being signed left, right, and centre, I don't think it's stuck well with him. I think he's very much a traditional guy. I think he's very much I'm not going to say an autocrat in the way that he manages, but I do think he manages to a very specific style. And I think when like there's no one here that can tell me that when you bring in Aubameyang, when you bring in, I'm trying to think of who else they brought in on the last day of the season. You bring in like some Aubameyang, you bring in Sterling and so on, and those type of guys. That
you haven't even mentioned the best player they brought in.
Chukwuemeka?
Chukwuemeka, moneymaker, yeah.
But I don't even like that. That surely wasn't a Thomas Tuchel signing. Like it couldn't have been.
Well, like the bizarre thing about this is we saw a tweet the other day from Jamie Carragher who suggested that Abramovich was still signing players.
That was wild. That was almost dangerous from Carragher. Like I know we're having the nightcap, having a few drinks here, but Jesus, like that's.
But at least we're only quoting people. We're not saying that ourselves.
Oh no. But what I'm saying there, like a couple of people should be asking Jamie, show your workings in that one, please. Show your workings in that one, because that's a pretty big accusation to make. That's actually a massive accusation to make, and I don't think there was a lot made of that because and I'm even kind of uncomfortable enough discussing it here now because but it could have been a joke, but I don't know. I thought there was a small bit of bile behind it when I saw it written myself. But
Jamie Carragher has earned an awful lot of money in his career that he can fight any lawsuit. This has been said, we can't. So I just thought it was a mad statement to make. And as you can see, anyone that's listening here, if you've got any questions, pop them in the box.
Pop them in, yeah.
This conversation could literally go anywhere. It could last 40 minutes. It could last an hour. We'll see what happens and see where it brings us. But just we realise that people are starved a little bit of Villa chat, and that's why we're here tonight, just to have a laugh, shoot the breeze, have the crack. But going back to Chelsea, I think the big thing for me is that Graham Potter has got a huge job, and I'm delighted for him. I don't hold out an awful lot of optimism for him because I think it's just a mad job to pick up. But I'll just be delighted I'll just be delighted that when the next big red button gets hit in Chelsea, that it might coincide with our red button, and he'll step across to Villa Park and take over.
Okay, right. I'm going to play that contrary fella in the pub. That's probably going to say something different to you in that one. Do I believe this? I let everybody else decide. But I'm prefacing this as I'm going to play the contrary fella. I don't know, has Graham Potter done enough to get the Chelsea job? No, and I think that's a fair comment to make from anyone's point of view. What I'm also going to say, though, is I'm also going to turn back and I'm going to play the barman who's watching Sky Sports News all day. So, and he's going to turn around and he's going to say, lads, though, but in fairness, Todd Bowley turned around. Is that how you pronounce his name? I think it is. Todd Bowley turned around and said he's looking for a coach, almost an American style kind of a thing. Bring in a coach, it's going to coach the players, and someone will buy the players in, and it's specifically going to be delineated the lines of communication. And if that is true, if it's true from the point of view that they want somebody to come in who's a really good coach, yes, Graham Potter, fantastic coach, really, really good coach. And I can understand why they picked him. Because, look, you can get figureheads that aren't good coaches as well. And we'll probably keep that for conversations later on as this podcast does devolve. So I think that's a fair point. But I don't believe. But that will, like, the only way we're going to know whether Todd Bowley was true in what he said there is in 3 years' time. If Graham Potter is actually still the manager, and maybe things haven't gone to plan, and they've had a couple of hidings, maybe in the Champions League or from the top six or whatever the case may be. So at the moment, I think there's a lot of PR things being said by the club. I wouldn't believe any of them if I was a fan. But at the same time, I'd be happy that we've gotten Graham Potter. But I can imagine that some Chelsea fans aren't going to be happy. What would you think, Paddy?
Well, yeah, it's an underwhelming appointment in the stratosphere that is the Big Six. So
well, it's no Philippe Scolari, like.
No, he's not. No, and the one thing I will say, when we did our season preview last year, I tipped Brighton to go down. I didn't think Graham Potter had what he had, and he just brought. He brings an intensity to the game. He defends from the front. He made average players decent players, not world class players by any means, but decent players. They were well and truly safe. They'll be well and truly safe this year, I would imagine. But he has something about him. I remember last year they drew a game and people started booing. And like,
what game was that?
They
drawn a couple of games in a row. Was it Burnley? I think it was something like Burnley. I don't know.
Yeah, he actually stood there like what the hell? People are booing. He mentioned it in his press conference afterwards, and you're just like, what do people want? Do you know what I mean? We would have cried out to be where Brighton were last season. Well and truly safe, stable, decent manager.
We beat them twice last season, Paddy.
I know, but like,
we look comfortable beating them. Sorry for cutting you.
Yeah, but like they ground out results. Take out our results out of it. When they looked like they were dead and buried, they got a point here and there all over the place. They were their draw specialists last year. I think he's a decent coach, and by all the people that have said to me, he's a Villa fan, so he could be one for the future. Yeah, he could be one for the future.
Would you see? And this is the thing, Paddy. If Todd Bowley is to be believed, he's not like he's seeing out that 5-6 year contract or whatever he signed, regardless, come hell or high water. And what I suppose that was that's therein is my question. Is this slick PR from an American businessman that's come, or it doesn't matter what nationality is, from a businessman who's made a lot of money and has made appointments at a top level before, albeit I can't remember what, like, I couldn't say where he's made appointments or where he's made his money, but is that slick businessmanship with PR? Is that salesmanship coming from Todd Bowley? Or do we actually fully believe that Graham Potter is going to be there for a long-term vision within this club, within Chelsea? Because I genuinely believe that there has to come a time when one of the top six has to put their nuts in the table and do an Alex Ferguson on it and come hell or high water, give them 6 to 8. Do a Wenger again and stick by them and let them grow with it. But I just, and to me, it would be mind-blowing for it to be Chelsea, considering Chelsea have had Cleaver out very, very quickly in the past. It would really it would really come to show a new ownership and a new era within the club for me.
And by all accounts, it's a completely new regime, despite what Jamie Carragher says. But look, Graham Potter is obviously an incredible coach. He, as I just previously said, he made average players decent players. I'm actually looking forward to watching them. I'm actually looking forward to seeing what he does with them. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of stamp he puts on them. There's plenty of talent there. Absolutely world-class players there. I think there's great potential, but as you said, they've a tendency to pull the trigger. Ever since that Mourinho, what was it, 2006, 2007, whatever it was, the first time they pulled the trigger on him. Everything seems to be a little bit rushed since then. So for me, Chelsea is probably the last place I would have thought you would have got that amount of time. But maybe with the new regime, he might. When you look at Arteta, when Arteta was under savage pressure this time last year, he was backed by the owners, and look where they are now, absolutely flying. Who's to say we won't be there this time next year after absolutely lambasting our manager this year? And I for the first time in a long time, I can buy into this Chelsea project, and I look forward to seeing how they do. And I actually won't feel so bad if a guy does really, really well, because correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a long time since they had an English manager. Would I be correct in saying that?
I was thinking exactly the same. Is it Glenn Hoddle, player manager?
Ooh, yeah, I would imagine so. Yeah,
Hoddle, was it Hoddle? Who came after Hoddle? Anyway, they went down the route of sexy football. Ruud Gullit, Gianluca Vialli. Jesus, it could be.
After that, I don't think there is an English manager.
John, the beauty about this podcast is, Paddy. Yeah. Talk away there.
Right. And we'll leave this as the last point in talking about Chelsea, because I've asked people to put in their questions, and I'm going to take over the comments here and the questions. So when you've got this one answered, and if I've done enough, Hoddle was the last one.
No, Hoddle, Gullit, Vialli, Ranieri, Mourinho, Avram Grant, lads. Avram Grant. Love and honour of all that's holy. Philippe Scolari. I will never have a bad word said about Philippe Scolari. Gus Hiddink, Carlo Ancelotti, Andre Aston Villa, I suppose. That was my great joke. I always wanted Andre Villas-Boas to be an Aston Villa manager, because so that somebody can ask him, who did you support in the Premier League? And he could say, Villa, I suppose. And then it would sound like Andre Villa. See, look, these are the kind of things that go through my mind when I'm not podcasting, lads. Di Matteo, Benitez, Jose Mourinho. Paddy, we have one game and one win.
Ah, yes.
He's a man who's an English man whose surname isn't English, as in his surname is the name of another country. Actually, I don't think it's even politically correct to call this country this name. I don't think it's the official name of this country.
Now you confused me altogether.
Anyway, then it goes Gus Hiddink again, Conte, Maurizio Sarri, Frank Lampard.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Frank Lampard. But up until then, they were going good.
Who was the guy that got the one win?
Steve Holland or Steve Netherlands. I'm not sure which one we should call him. I'm not 100% sure yet what one we should call him. He had a 3-1 win against who I don't know, and he was acting manager between the 17th of December and the 19th of December 2015, in between Jose's second reign and Gus Hiddink's second reign.
Fair enough. Okay.
Lads.
Is that the end of Chelsea?
I think that's the end of Chelsea. Yeah. Look, Graham Potter, wish him the best of luck. I hope he loses every game. Again, plays against Aston Villa, but I wish him the best of luck. And I kind of, like, for me, from a team that's not in the top 6 at the moment and aspire to be in the top 6, I kind of hope a top 6 team kind of leaves a decent manager for the rest of us, or leaves a young manager coming up for the rest of us, and stops changing their manager every 2 or 3 years, because it's kind of nice to have these 7, 8, 9, 10-year rivalries between the likes of Fergie and Wenger, and these where you see two people get old with spite with each other. And I thought we'd get that with Conte and Tuchel, but as you say, a week's a long time in football, and that's it, really.
Anyway, Neil, we have a question, and it's something I didn't even notice this week. Nicholas has asked, no Coutinho or Luiz in the Brazil squad. What do we think?
First time. I think I read somewhere today. First time since 2018 that Coutinho hasn't been in the Brazil squad.
Really?
Could be wrong on that. I think it was, but it's the first time in a long time since Coutinho has been.
So Nicholas has asked what we think. So my initial thinking on it is, I'm glad, because that means it's an extended break to get those guys rested and ready. But I wouldn't read too much into that with a World Cup close at hand. Their international break at the moment is Mickey Mouse. It's friendlies, isn't it? They don't have I don't think they have any qualifiers or Combiol. Is that what they call it? The Combiol. No, it's not
Combiol or whatever it is. Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Now, you know what we're going to do next, Paddy? Because this is one of these off the wall podcasts that doesn't really care. I've just Googled the Brazil national football team squad for the next thing. But Phil, please, Paddy.
Yes. So I think it's only friendlies. So it would be it would be just like Brazil to blood a few players and see if they'd anything ready to come in for a World Cup. So what have we
Well,
got?
let's see about blooding players. I wouldn't use the word blooding players, to be honest with you, because it looks like they have gone and they've pretty much decided to call up one or two players from their own league. So players who've come in have been the ever young and 33-year-old Everton Ribeiro, playing for Flamengo, who
Jeepers.
are riding high in
Yeah.
the Brazilian league at the moment. Fred is still in the squad. Fabinho, Lucas Paqueta, Casemiro. Look, to be honest with you, I couldn't disagree with Casemiro being in there. Lucas Paqueta, Fabinho, Bruno Guimaraes. Fred and Everton Ribeiro. Fred, I don't mind Fred as a player. I think he plays much better for Brazil than he does for Manchester United. But I think Everton Ribeiro is that change player within that midfield who could be a Luiz, who could be maybe somebody else who comes into that midfield, that midfield position there. And then when you look, to be honest with you, it's no shame to be left out of this forward line, is what we would call it from a Coutinho point of view. You've got Neymar, you've got Bobby Firmino, you've got Richarlison, you've got Vinicius Jr. Anthony comes in instead of Coutinho, which I think is probably fair. You've got Rafinha, you've got Mateus Cunha from Atletico Madrid. He's grand for me. You've got Rodrigo, and then you've got Pedro from Flamengo, who's come in there as well. So Pedro's 25, he's had one cap for Brazil previously. And I think that's what it shows, that there's players that are coming in and out of that squad, like their goalkeeper situation. They've brought in Weverton from Palmeiras as the third goalkeeper. Obviously, Alisson and Ederson are in there. So they're changing that, they're churning the bottom end of that squad. Then with their defenders, they've brought in I think I'm trying to figure out here who's new. I think Roger Ibanez from Roma and Bremer are probably new into that. How Alex Telles gets into the Brazil squad, lads. Alex Telles. If anybody listens to this podcast, they know that I think Alex Telles is one of the worst defensive fullbacks. I thought he was one of the worst defensive fullbacks in the whole of the Premier League last season. Lads. He's 29 years of age. God.
So Neil, we've spoken about Chelsea, we've spoken about Brazil. We're going to talk about Aston Villa because we've got a celebrity.
No fun.
We've got a celebrity asking a question. So I'd like to welcome to the show Micah Richards.
Micah Richards.
Thanks for your comment. Thanks for dropping by. And Micah Richards wants to know, do we think the game will happen this weekend? Short answer, yes.
I hope so. Because it's a Friday, and I think Friday night lights. And to be honest with you, if I had to pick a game, if I could go back 2 or 3 weeks ago, or maybe 2 or 3 months ago, and book a game, this would be one of the ones. I had it tentatively booked. I had tickets, but I didn't book flights or accommodation or anything. Yeah. But I think this is the one I'd like to go to, because there's something about the Friday night lights, like everybody getting off work with the full weekend ahead of them, and it's an 8 o'clock game, and you go to the 8 o'clock game, and all of a sudden it's 9:30, and Villa have beaten Southampton, and next thing all of a sudden it's a case of to the pub, and you don't have work the next day. Everyone goes balls to the wall afterwards celebrating, and I think that'd be a big class over in Birmingham for myself. I think that'd be a bit cool.
Yeah, I think there's potential there now. If you remember the Everton game last year when Wesley scored, or 2 years ago, was it?
2 years ago. 3 years ago.
Yeah, 3 years ago. It smacks of that game where we could have a little turning point. But I really wanted that Leicester game to happen in between. I just think it's just our luck to come off that Man City game and have our game called off this weekend. It's just going to create so much hassle down the line of where they fit these games in, and I hope they have a thought process behind it and they've left some space in there, because
January the 17th or something, Paddy, I think is the nearest date that they can have. I think it's January after the FA Cup.
The midweek games between the FA Cup games and before the European games kick off again. But they didn't do it last year. If you remember, we were messed about. We had that game called off 45 minutes before the Burnley game, Christmas week. That didn't happen until 2 games to go in the season. So,
I wonder will they rethink I wonder if they don't go ahead with this coming weekend slate of games. I wonder will they rethink the Christmas break?
Well, they might have to.
That's what I'm saying.
You
Yeah.
know, it looks for all the world at the moment they're going to have a game on every day between the 26th of December, Boxing Day to our English viewers and listeners, St. Stephen's Day for us, up until the 3rd of January. So they're going to space the games out over those 7 or 8 days. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. It's a strange situation for everybody to be in, but you know, I just hope they don't peg it on to the end of the season. Players haven't had enough of a break with the season being starting a bit sooner this time around. With the European Championships the end of next season, would that be right? Yeah.
Yeah, and like with the European Championships being cancelled because of COVID, and we moved in,
Yeah.
and then next thing you've got
So
Qatar
everything has just
mid-season.
been for the last 3 years. There's a lot of players on burnout, so they
Oh,
need to
huge.
find a way of pigeonholing this into the middle of the season instead of tagging it on at the end. It's long enough. Players need a rest. We haven't had a decent rest since before COVID, so I'm hoping that's the case. I'm hoping they will. But the question was, will the game go ahead this weekend? I understand that everything but the games in London will go ahead this weekend.
I heard the games in London could be flipped if they're playing a team outside of London to reverse the fixtures and go, oh well, we're going to play it now. We're going to reverse the home fixture and the way fixture, and then we'll, that'll come back again. Because look, obviously, completely understand why they would be cancelled, and look, there's obvious reasons for that. We would completely understand. Policing in London for the next 10 days is going to be absolutely paramount. You're going to need to police London, and that's 100%. There's going to be so many dignitaries flying in and out and coming through, and essentially for the funeral. That is 100% to be understood. And then if you put in however many thousand football fans in there as well, with all the policing that goes into match day for a London game, I can completely understand why the London games are a point of emphasis at the moment. So it will be interesting to see what happens. And look, it's 100% paramount, and there should be no way that one should or that the football should trump that. But I think that if there is a determination to be made whereby they just say, okay, we'll just flip the home and the away thing here, and we play you guys at our home outside of London, and then we'll flip that in, and we can go back. I think that's probably the sensible situation, but then again, I don't know how to do it. And this is exactly what I was going to put up next from Jude. I don't think it is possible to extend the season. I think the PFA would have an absolute conniption if that was the case. And contracts would be an issue too.
Exactly. Look, we asked for questions. There's a few in there, so we're going to address them because I reckon Ethan hasn't listened to our last one where we discussed the Villa Park development.
Well, let's do it again because I think it's become I think it's now kind of sunk in.
Yeah.
The one big thing
if you're listening there now, stick a question in there if you want us to answer them.
Anybody who's listening, stick a question in there, and because we don't have any set thing. Myself and Paddy are just shooting the breeze here. But for Ethan and that, I think I really like the new development plans for Villa Park. I think from coming from a former architectural background myself, and coming from a conservation background as well, I think it's been pretty thoughtful. What I've seen in the renders and what I've seen in the architecture or in the artistic kind of sketches from it, I think it's pretty thoughtful to the surroundings, to the culture, to the heritage of Villa Park. This is going to be a small point, but I would love to be in the room when they're picking the red brick. Because if it isn't the right shade of red brick, just like it's not the right shade of claret for jerseys, I'll go nuts. But that's only a small point. But what I love about this is the whole aspect, the whole town planning almost aspect of it, and the whole link of infrastructure within the city. Because what it shows to me here is, and a lot of people, you see it on Twitter and stuff like that when we go through a couple of losses, and maybe Stephen Gerrard isn't up to the task or whatever. And then the next thing that comes in is, the owners are losing interest. The owners are going to lose interest. The owners are gone. The way they've designed this and the way they've designed the inner city development and academy pitch, to me, is so thoughtful, and it's actually beautiful. And it's the one thing that I mentioned to Paddy. I said, and I know it's an artist render, I know it's a 3D render, but that lovely linkway that when you walk out onto the pitch of the development, the new inner city development academy, you see Villa Park. There's your goal. Here's your workplace. Get to work here, and you get to work over there. on Saturdays and Sundays.
Here's the now,
I
and
love
there's
that.
the future.
Yeah, and what it does is it really puts, like we sing, the city is ours, the city is ours, fuck off small heat, the city is ours. You know, the city becomes ours with stuff like that. And hopefully this isn't the last inner city piece that they have. Hopefully there's another training pitch over there somewhere else. And hopefully there's another kind of fans area maybe to the north of where the football ground is at the moment, so that when the crowds start coming to, that it isn't all just in the Villa 1 area, that it's kind of interdispersed around the place. Hell, if I was Aston Villa, I'd go away, I'd buy the Social. I go now. Everybody knows my irrational love for the Social. I think it's the most fantastic little pub in all of Birmingham. But I go. If
Karen is going to fall out with you now, Neil.
No, I want to keep Karen. That's why I love it. That's why I love the Socials, because of people like Karen. But I go in and buy it and I flip and do it up. I not do it up because it's in a bad way, but I expand it out,
make it bigger
around it, make a massive fan area there, because it's literally spitting distance from the ground, and it's a love. It could make a lovely walk up there to the ground from there. But what I'm saying is creating match engagement days, fan engagement areas like that with existing pubs from the club could be very nice. And I think that this is a start. Specifically, the academy, I think, is very much a start as well. I love it. For my ex-professional opinion, they've gotten it spot on so far. Let's see what they actually build.
Yeah, and you know what? I love the anyone that was at Wembley, the Box Park kind of team to the Villa Live is what they call the working title of that arena behind the North Stand. I just look forward to the day that going to Villa Park is a day out and not an hour and a half turning up for a match. I think there's so much they can do between a family fun zone, between getting live bands in there to play after the game, and look, you go elsewhere. You mentioned going to the Aston Inn, absolutely fine, but why not keep our money with the club? If we're going to have fun in
Karen's going to fall out with you.
I know, yeah. Well, we can spread it about, And look, if we're looking 7, 8, 10 years down the line, and we are the next, I hate putting a name on it, but the next big money bags team that rock up and are in Champions League, and we're inviting fans from all around the world, we need to show them an experience. We need to give them something to strive for. We need to give them that day out. And
you make a great point. You make a great point there, Paddy. You look back at the Champions League final that just happened in Paris. In Paris, in Stade de France. Everybody had to, it's a tough stadium to get to, number one. Second of all, everybody had to drink in town and then make their way down funnels into this stadium. And that's the big problem. There was nowhere around there where people could congregate for hours before the game and then easily ingress in towards the stadium. And that's like Birmingham has the opportunity to do that. So not even Birmingham, B6 has the opportunity to do that. It has the opportunity to do that because call it what we want. Like there is a lot of fallow land around there, and you could do that. So what I'm talking about here is I'm not calling on the club to go in and purchase every single open lot in the B6 area. I'm not doing that. What I'm saying is that if this is the start of an infrastructural link back towards what Michael Huggins called it there is the red brick palace, which I love it as well. If this is the start, and that's why I say it, because there is there's a new road going in there, if I'm not mistaken. There's a new thoroughfare essentially going from training ground to the stadium. If that's the start of something, maybe, if Aston Hall starts selling off land, who should they go to? The club should be well in there and create community feels. It's all about getting the community involved. I think with Aston Villa Football Club at this moment in time, we have an international presence for sure. We have a presence within Birmingham. But as I say, if we really want to sing the city is ours, you need to start gathering that infrastructure around the city. And it can't just be a shop in the Bullring or a shop in New Street, wherever the hell it was. I can't even remember where it was. It can't just be that anymore. It has to be infrastructure. It has to be, if you've got 10 under 10 teams, if you've got 12 under 10 teams, you need 40 under 10 teams. That's the way you're going to do it. If you're really going to strangle the likes of Birmingham out of getting any of the Jude Bellinghams of this world in future, well, then you have to up your game. You have to have that inner city presence. And we're in much better position to do that than Small Heat are. And I think that's very much where it's difficult. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not a case you can click our fingers and do it in the morning. It's bloody difficult, but we're on the right road if we can get this inner city academy built for sure.
Perfect. Ready for the next question, Neil?
Yes.
We have another celebrity in here today, and I'd like to welcome to the podcast David Ginola.
David Ginola, good to see you.
Who anglicized his name and called himself Dave. So thank you, David. Welcome to the podcast. And he asks, do you expect the breaking games will be beneficial for Gerrard, his coaching staff, and the players? And my answer is no. We needed to play Leicester when they were shit. So we will get a different Leicester in 12, 13 weeks' time or whatever they look like in that time. So, yes, my opinion is that we needed to play Leicester this weekend. We need to play Southampton on Friday night. We were on a roll after getting let's face it, a result we didn't expect against Manchester City. Yep. So this unexpected break in games is not beneficial in any way to us. We needed it. I hark back to that one I said about Burnley. Burnley were absolutely in the mire Christmas week last year. Yeah. We needed that game. And what happened? Fucking game was cancelled. It's so Aston Villa to be put in that situation. And look, we don't know if we're going to head into a new wave of COVID where we're going to have to deal with this after the World Cup, and you just don't know what's going to happen in the future. So to get points on the board is the most important thing. So losing the opportunity to play this Leicester game while Leicester are struggling, I think is a bad thing for us.
I'm going to be the contrary man at the other end of the bar here, and I'm going to say two things. This doesn't help Leicester either, and in fact, it probably puts more pressure on Leicester because we have points in the hand. But the second thing I would say is that we very much have struggled to field the back four on a consistent basis over the course of the season, and I think that has been our downfall in some games. That at times, specifically at set pieces, has been a big issue, and. I think that maybe these next few weeks, considering we don't have any of our back four not at this moment in time in international duty, or we will have Matty Cash will be gone, Luca Dean will be gone. Yeah, that's fine. And most other teams will be losing their players to international duty. But I think over the last week, if I'm not Steven Gerrard and I'm not getting out my super glue and the back four that I want to play against, hopefully Southampton on Friday. They're not super gluing their hands together so that they know exactly how to move in unison in future. And maybe that might keep Luca Dean back a small bit. That might be how we do it, is we super glue him to Tyrone Mings. But I think that we need this because like our preseason was pretty much like someone might as well put a match to it when Diego Carlos got injured. Might as well just put a match to our back fours preseason. Because all of a sudden Tyrone Mings became the linchpin, and Tyrone Mings was somebody who, by all accounts, we were expecting to be next man up.
Yeah,
I didn't agree with it. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. That's one thing I heavily criticize Gerrard over. But we haven't had a stable back four this season. This gives us time to maybe bring Bednarik in. I've been very critical over Konza. I hope he doesn't start the next game. But I think this extra week might give us a chance to bring the likes of Bednarik in. Might give us a chance to work in that midfield four that we had the last hour, 3.5, if you want to call Ramsey a winger. But I think that's that. But I would like to play this game, and I would like to get the points on board. I'm just being the cantankerous old man in the corner with a different viewpoint for the sake of it.
And that's fine. That's absolutely fine. The one plus with not having a game this week is there's an extra week to get Matty Cash back to full fitness. So having the option of having Matty Cash over Ashley Young is a plus for me. Not that Ashley Young, we both said, was probably man of the match the last day, so that's absolutely fine. Okay, we're going to go on to Mark. Mark has said the issue with extending the season.
Mark put his surname in there, so we can't come up with
call him Mark Draper or something like that.
Yeah. Well, he's obviously just made up a surname here because he didn't mind to be known. Mark Draper Soccer School. We're on to you, Mark. We're on.
So he's dead right there, extending the season for Champions League final and international block, which I absolutely hate those June fixtures. I think it's absolutely pointless. Surely they can work it another way. I think this new international setup is an absolute mess. So coming on to my favourite question of the night. Love this one. Sean Hudson says, will Villa Park ever have safe standing areas? And do they actually work? Well, Sean, I invite you, whatever your persuasion, to have a listen to Celtic Park on a match day on anything other than Sky Sports, and you will hear an absolutely incredible atmosphere. I've had the pleasure of being there 3 times, I think, since Safe Standing has come in there, and you know
I
what?
didn't
They
even know
work.
Steph Standing was back in Celtic Park.
Oh, that big area in the corner where they put the
Yeah, where they put the TV. Yeah,
banners. Yeah, that's all Safe Standing. It's incredible. The noise that comes from there when you're in the stadium is absolutely unbelievable. But it's amazed me that Villa Park, after being one of the trailblazers for this, hasn't actually gone
under
ahead.
Randy Lerner.
Yeah, they haven't actually gone ahead and done this. But I don't know the reasoning behind it. But do they actually work? That's my only experience of Safe Standing. I was in the new Spurs stadium where it's kind of set up for Safe Standing because
Because the NFL.
because the away end it's so wide that nobody sits down, and you've got a barrier in front of you that you can put your hands on and whatever. If you remember, I did a team sheet tantrum from there with the phone sitting on the barrier, So, like, that's an incredible stadium, and there was savage noise coming out of Villa fans that day. Unfortunately, it didn't translate over onto the pitch exactly. But it's But look, I think they work. If you look at the yellow wall in Borussia Dortmund, I think it's absolutely incredible. I think in this day and age, people can be a bit more safety conscious, and obviously, I tried to get my son into the Celtic safe standing area. That's over 18s, so there's a lot of things at play with organising this. You've got to rehouse people from their current seats in order to get that safe standing in there. But I know it was definitely looked at in that area between the lower Trinity and the lower Holt to trial it from there. But who's to say that won't go into the North Stand when they eventually build it?
Yeah. My only and look, this is going to sound trivial, and I don't want it to sound that way. I completely 100% understand why safe standing was why standing and terracing was taken out. Look, we're not going down that route of debate or conversation. They're now trialing safe standing, and that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about the early 90s standing. We're talking about safe standing. But
exactly.
In Irish sports here in Ireland, there is, like, both ends behind the goals of every single stadium. You will go to Barcrook Park, there's only one end where you will have it, which is our biggest stadium, 85,500, I think it was, which is mad considering that's a massive that's a massive part of our population. Anyway, but most either ends behind the goals will be terraced. And when we say that, it will just be like concrete steps with standing bars in front. So over here in Ireland, we have a lot of aspects of where we would be involved in the terrace situation of safe standing and stuff like that. No, completely different situation. I've never been at a football match. I'm not old enough, nor have I been at a continental football match or anything like that where there would be safe standing. So I don't know. My only experience of it will be at a hurling match or a Gaelic football match here in Ireland, whereby I suppose realistically it's something that would only happen maybe 5, 6, 7 times a year, as opposed to 38 times a year, or 19 times a year, or whatever the case may be. So I wouldn't be in any way, shape, or form in a position to answer that. I don't even know if I want to see it back because I've never experienced it, so I don't know whether I would like it. So I'm going to completely stay out of that conversation because I just don't know.
I'll finish off this one, so because I'm a little bit older than you. So I grew up on the terraces. I grew up on the terraces in Tolka Park, Lansdowne Road, Holt End, the Jungle in Celtic Park. All of these places I've stood and just saw absolute carnage. This is a completely different experience. This is people standing in their own box as such, where they don't move out of. Scotty UK says, I've yet to sit down at any Villa game except halftime in the whole end. every game this season. Yes, my season ticket is just to the right as the goalkeeper stands, the right of the goal. We stand for the whole game. We haven't got a choice because if you sit down, you can't see the game. So I empathise with you, Scotty. It's not ideal as you start to get older and you've been on your feet in a pub for 3 or 4 hours before a game, and then you've got to try and stand for an hour and a half because the first thing that comes into your mind is I need a wee because you've had a few beers, and then with the jumping up and down, hopefully of us scoring a goal or shouting at the referee in my case that you need a wee anyway. So
I told you weren't going to get intellectual conversation in this podcast, lads. I wasn't lying.
So we're gonna move from one Scotty to the next, and I'm gonna let you read this one.
Yeah, so even lads, David number 2 here. Question: we'll probably lose Douglas Luiz at a free in the summer. Are we better off having him here for the rest of the season rather than bagging 25 million? Now, I've answered this in a way which I will repeat my answer in a moment, Paddy, but I haven't heard your answer on this one since the window closed.
I'm annoyed with the hierarchy that we didn't tie Douglas Luiz down in the day or two after the transfer window closing. We were under the impression that this was going to happen before the transfer window closed. It never happened. So what's going on?
The Monday specifically before the transfer window was closed. There was lots out there that he was going to sign that. It was all over Twitter and stuff.
And now we're at the stage where we've got this guy who was obviously fairly well sought after by Arsenal. They're willing to spend that kind of money. If we weren't going to sign him off in the days after the transfer window, we probably should have sold him. That's my opinion on it. Because we have to be conscious of finances and financial fair play, because we know financial fair play only really exists from the top 6 down. And if you're not one of the greedy 6, it doesn't matter. But for us, we're obviously living within our means of financial fair play. So in my opinion, we probably should have sold him then if he had no intention of signing anyway. But we have this player here now. Will we get a tune out of him for the next 8-9 months till next May? I hope so. I really, really hope so. I hope he doesn't down tools and wait for his free move to Arsenal or whatever that looks like in January when he signs a pre-contract agreement. But look, he seems like a really likeable guy. The players seem to really like him. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy that will take the piss. And that's what's annoying me a little bit, that he hasn't bought into whatever's gone on here and signed his contract since the transfer window closed.
I think that they're all fair points. I think they're fair points. I would have been absolutely up in arms at the club if they'd sold him without bringing in a replacement. I think that I genuinely believe Douglas Luiz would be wearing an Arsenal jersey now if we could have got.
Was Leandro Dendoncker the replacement?
No, I don't think so. I think Leandro Dendoncker was an opportunistic signing, and I think he was a signing that came in because the club looked at it and went, if Kamara gets injured, we actually have no one here, and also Dendoncker can play with Kamara too. Whereas Douglas Luiz would be the natural successor after Tim went out, obviously. And look, let's not say, well, why did we loan out Tim anyway? Who's to know if they fully believe that Tim is 100% ready, that if, let's just say, Kamara got injured against Leicester, he was out for the season, that Tim could step in there for 34 games. I'm not sure he can do that. You're not sure he can do that. I don't want to see Callum Chambers there either. So I think Dendoncker was a needed, like I always said, we needed another 6 or another 8. And I think we probably needed 2 of those along with a centre half and probably a striker. Let's be honest with ourselves. You know me, the more the merrier. Bring them all in if you can, is what I would like to do. But I don't think, no, I think that they were completely separate situations. And I think that the Dendoncker thing wasn't exactly a case that they woke up on transfer day morning and went, oh, I think we'll sign Leandro Dendoncker. I think that had been in the offing for a couple of weeks because they knew they needed to shore up and they needed to get a bit more height in midfield, because they were looking at Kondogbia, they were looking at players like that as well to play in midfield. So I think that was something that was in the offing for quite a while. Now, the Douglas Luiz thing, I think if they could have got a Conor Gallagher over the line, and I think, and I've nothing to base this on other than the fact that it's nearly 11 o'clock on a Sunday night, and it's going through my brain at this moment in time because I'm looking at the Brazilian team sheet still. Gerson from Marseille was linked and then just flittered away on transfer deadline day. Now, Gerson is a player of great who's coming into his own in the French league, failed at Roma, is coming into his own in the French league. Potentially, if they could have got a player like that for X amount, and Douglas Luiz came in to offset the cost, I think they would have just done the switcheroo there and that. But I don't think they'll sell him in I don't think they'll sell him in January. I think what will happen with Douglas Luiz is Douglas Luiz will either go on a free or he'll sign a new contract. And look, we don't have a massive reputation of losing players on a free. And to be honest with you, I'm not really too worried whether he goes in a free. I just want us to replace. Like, if we replace him with somebody who's better, I'm not worried about that 25 million. Like, you're going to have to, like, you're going to get players that are going to be overpaid for, like Jack Grealish now looks like he was overpaid for. You're going to have players that you're going to lose money on as well. And I think over time it's going to balance each other out. Ideally, we'd like to get the 25 million for him, but if we had no replacement for him, we would have been kind of literally, after standing on a rake somewhere along there, I think.
David Scott, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David.
We're going to move on to the next one. The next one is we had the dulcet tones of, is it Tuan?
Tuan, yeah.
Yeah. Ever watch the press conference? This is my favorite question.
I knew you.
I think why are the questions from the media so soft and not hard hitting? My question to Gerrard would be, why are you not playing Chambers when he plays Konza every week? You know, Neil, every Friday about 2:00 when I actually get the sound bites on Twitter, the few lines here and there, and then when it comes out, I message you, Neil, and go, who let that idiot into the fucking press conference to ask that stupid question? And look, it's
some questions are mad.
We can't control what goes on in the press conference. I would love someone to say to me, Paddy, can you go on Zoom on Friday at 11 o'clock, and I go to my boss and go, can I take 20 minutes at 11 o'clock on a Friday to ask the hard-hitting questions of Steven Gerrard and every manager before him? Because it's important. These things need to be asked. But yes, they ask the most mundane things, the stupidest bloody questions.
And you're dead right, and sorry for cutting you off there, but when this Leicester match happens again, there will be a question asked, are there any hard feelings over yourself and Brendan Rodgers over the fact that, he was the last manager you had at your beloved Liverpool? I couldn't care less as a Villa fan what his hard feelings are against Brendan Rodgers. I want to know what he's going to do with his team to beat Brendan Rodgers. I couldn't care less about what happened 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, whatever it was. Couldn't care less. It's nothing to do with us anymore. If you're part of OK Magazine, if you're part of Hello Magazine or anything like that, and you want that information, find it in your own time. This is for the fans. This is for Aston Villa Football Club. Stop asking questions about Liverpool and things that happened when he wore a Liverpool jersey. Thank you.
There you go. Why don't you say what you really feel, Neil?
I think I said what 45,000 Aston Villa fans really feel with regards to that. It bugs the living hell out of me. It really bugs the living hell out of me. You get your slot, and you're allowed to ask 2, maybe 3 questions if you're anyway articulate. You can do that. And you ask one about, when was the last time Brendan Rodgers gave you a £5 worth of pocket money when you were at Liverpool? Did you enjoy? Give me a break. Give me a break. No one cares. Well, as you said, I want to know, what are you going to do to stop people getting in behind our fullbacks? What are you going to do to stop Harvey Barnes having a field day down our right-hand side? What are you going to do to stop? What are you going to do if Jamie Vardy comes off the bench and all of a sudden they change the one up top and Patson Daka goes off and you no longer have that rutting force against your back too? What are you going to do in that instance? Have you a game plan for that? Have you actually thought of that? What's the story about corners, lad? Are we going to defend the back post at corners? Why can't people ask those questions? Is it and if the club don't allow them to ask those questions, well, somebody put their head above the parapet and say it. But don't ask the question about when was the last time and how many times a week do you wash your Liverpool underpants and your Liverpool pajamas. Stop asking silly questions. And end scene. Right. Paddy, what's the next question? We'll take one more because we're over an hour.
Are we over an hour?
Yeah.
We had.
Actually, do you know what? I want to say something here. There's a couple of people mentioned Ashley Priest in the. I like Ashley Priest. I think he's one of the few that do ask decent questions. So I'm going to put that one out there.
Absolutely.
I like Ashley. I do. I like him.
So with what was just been said there, we have Tom Ross, who's a blue nose that gets to go and ask a question every week. That annoys the shit out of me. So Tom Ross goes and asks a question at the Aston Villa presser every Friday. That annoys the shit out of me. They need to get people in there asking the right questions. And, you know, I'll put my hand up and go, yes, please, me.
I'll do it.
No,
I won't do it. I won't do it because I'll spend too much time laughing inside there.
This lad is not going away, Neil. With celebrity, we can't get rid of Micah Richards tonight.
Micah Richards.
So Micah Richards wants to know what we make of us being in the Forbes top 20 announced yesterday. Was it yesterday or today?
I took a cursory look at that without taking too much of a look at it. And what I got from that was our squad is worth. I could be wrong on this because I read the headline and I read the first five lines of the thing, and then I got distracted and I had to do something and I never came back to it. If I'm not mistaken, our squad worth is in the top 20 in all Forbes. Am I right? Before I start asking a question that I wasn't asked, because
I think it's more got to do with our owners, though, isn't it? And the value of our club.
Phil there, Paddy.
So for the first time ever, the value of our club is now in the top 20 clubs in the world. That's the way I took it today. I must preface that, or it's not preface because I didn't say it before, but it was a badly written article that I read.
Oh no, I see it here. Here. List of most valuable teams. Okay, let me read. I don't think I'm reading the correct article, but I'm going to read an article that references.
Well, I read two or three of them till I actually got to the bottom of it. So it's the value of the club is now in the top 20 in the world. Yeah.
Well, they've Leeds valued at 800 million. On the list I'm seeing now, I'm not sure. West Ham valued at 900 million. Leicester at 9. Leicester. I would imagine that Everton Football Club is not valued at 940 million at the moment because, well, it may be. But if you're going to spend 940 million on Everton, and I don't know, am I even looking at the right list? But if you're going to spend 940 million in Everton, you probably have to spend the same again on their new stadium.
Well, the new stadium is
probably taken into account within that, I would imagine.
Yeah. So there's a lot, and our new stadium is probably taken into account by the time the plans are for the future. So it's we're up there now with the big boys. So as I always say, we're playing senior hurling now. So we need to start playing senior hurling on the pitch. That is the most important place because we have 20,000 season ticket holders waiting to come in. They're not going to come in if we don't start playing football properly and drag ourselves out of the mire that we're currently languishing in, which is lower than where Dean Smith left us. So there's a lot to take into consideration. And it was Leeds just ahead of us, were they? We were 20, were we? And Leeds were 19, correct?
We were 20, Leeds, West Ham, and so from 16 down are Everton at 16th, Leicester at 17th, West Ham at 18th, Leeds at 19th, and Aston Villa at 20th. Like, I find it very difficult to believe that Leicester, somebody would pay $1 billion to buy Leicester City because however much of a colloquial regional and nodal club we are, Leicester have to be. There has to be a kind of almost that detraction from that, the fact that it's a nodal club. Am I wrong in saying that? could be wrong in that. I'm not 100% sure actually if I even believe what I'm saying in that one. But I know they won or they won a Premier League recently, but like it's $1 billion. It's $1 billion that they're looking for.
Mm.
Right.
Well, it's not what they're looking for. It's what they're valued at.
It's what they're valued at. But
It's not
like
what they're
if you
looking
value
for.
a house, that's
And
the going rate.
and you'd have to wonder with a club like Leicester,
Is
who
it?
haven't exactly invested in their team. You
No.
said they won the league. They won the FA Cup last year. Is that correct? Last year.
Yeah, but still,
So
like the
yeah,
trophies to buy the FA Cup, buy a replica of the FA Cup, only costs you about £350.
yeah,
You know,
and
at the end of the day, you can't buy it twice.
with
You
big
know,
plans for an expansion on their stadium as well. So when you look
maybe
down that list, we have in a stadium expansion. Everton have a new stadium. Leicester have an expansion. Leeds have a potential expansion that they're looking at the moment. Albeit I believe the Leeds fan base are that little bit older now, so that they need to start targeting younger fans, not specific to the Yorkshire area. They need to spread their wings a bit further, like they did in the 70s and early 90s. So, yeah, I can see a reason why they're all in there, but the Leicester one is a strange one because we've seen a little bit of a demise in the last 6 months or so.
I'm going to be honest, lads. I don't know how we're there. I don't know how we're there.
Well, I'll tell you why we're there. We're there because we're going to have a 52,000 seater stadium in 3 or 4 years. We have
Is that what they're
probably
judging?
one of the richest couple of people in the world that could potentially own a football club together, and work really well together, the two of them. One of them with a huge sporting brand behind them, and the potential is huge. It's absolutely huge. Whether they can do that in the current state of the club, as in we're not bringing in enough money to compete with the financial fair play of those above us, and we're constantly looking over our shoulder at what we spent in the last, I think it goes back 36 months, doesn't it? The financial fair play that they need to watch.
3 years, yeah.
Yeah. So, there's a lot going on, but it's nice to see Aston Villa spoken
Oh,
about.
don't get me wrong. I just don't
Yeah.
understand what like because the article I'm reading here specifically highlights AC Milan, and the reason that they say they highlight AC Milan here is, and I'll just read from it. It says, under the right ownership, tarnished brands can be quickly turned into. It can be turned back into gems. It's actually written incorrectly there. It's turned back into gems is how the article wrote. Anyway, beside the point. Consider AC Milan. The Italian side was in financial ruins with negative equity of $37 million when Elliott Management took over after its owner defaulted on a loan payment in 2018. So I can understand that. So Elliott invested hundreds of millions in capital into AC Milan, eliminated almost all of the team's debt. And I think that's probably where I've overlooked what Aston Villa's owners have done. Elliott also lowered the player spending relative to revenue, and the team ended fiscal 2021 with positive equity of 70 million. And at the same time, AC Milan improved in the pitch. Last May, the team qualified for the Champions League for the first time in 7 years, and this season captured its first Serie A title in 11 years. So let me go back on this because I'm trying to think this out. As I say, I hadn't read this article. I'm just trying to think it out myself. So if we think about what Elliott Management did for AC Milan, and obviously Elliott Management have now sold AC Milan to, I can't remember what they're called, but they've just literally only sold them for $1.1 billion. So if we look at here, Edens and Suarez took over Aston Villa. I would imagine we were in a negative equity of more than $37 million. If you remember rightly, it was costing us a fortune to run the club, and there still is a lot of money being put in. They eliminated almost all of the team's debt. And fair to say our debt is eliminated, and our debt now is paid to our owners at this moment in time in the form of shares. I think I'm right in saying that. Now, here's the part where I think that maybe we've misconstrued things like net spend and stuff like that over the course of the last couple of years. And I think this is sometimes where I've got a problem with it, because I've often said net spend is a poor metric to measure a transfer window on. Because here it says, for AC Milan to get back into that stratosphere of being worth X amount, that they lowered player spending relative to revenue And I think that we can safely say that Aston Villa have done that. Our player spending relative to our revenue has been lowered in the last 2 years since Jack Grealish was sold. And even this year, even this transfer window here, our player spending has been lowered relative to our spending. So over the last 3 transfer windows, essentially since Steven Gerrard was brought into the club. So maybe there's a lot of things in that. Maybe there's a balancing in the books that are going on here that's going on behind the scenes, because football financial stuff is just such a quagmire, and it's difficult to understand. Maybe we're coming out the other side of this from a more financial fair play orientated mindset, and we don't even know it as football fans.
Maybe.
There's one note for everybody before they go to bed tonight.
So when I wake at 4 o'clock in the morning, that's the one that's going to come into my head now to try and change the world and figure that one out.
Yeah, may say, yeah, for sure. Lads, we've done an hour and 12 minutes in this one. This is fantastic. Have we one last question? I don't know, do we? Have one last question. And we'll do a 30-second quick fire on it between the two of us, because I got to get to bed. I've work in the morning, jeepers.
Can you find one?
I wasn't able to find the last couple that you put up, Paddy. Never mind.
This one could take more than 30 seconds.
For me, it won't.
So Simon says, "What are your thoughts on Young versus Cash? He prefers Young.
I don't. I think over the course of a 38 game season, Matty Cash. Look, being a 37-year-old man,
you mention Cash, be it Cash or Matty Cash. The answer will always be Cash. We always prefer Cash.
No, look, Ashley Young came in at a great game against Man City. Ashley Young will have great games this season as well, but Ashley Young may have games like he did against Wolves last season. And look, if 37-year-olds were able to function as efficiently in the Premier League for a 38 game season, then Phil Bardsley would still be playing somewhere in the Premier League this season. And he's played at fullback all his life. Ashley Young only took it up when he turned 30. And look, I hope, put it this way, I'm going to keep on saying it because I hope to God he proves me wrong every game he goes out, and I hope he turns out to be our player of the season. If he does, well then look, it's all gravy. I'm never rooting for anyone to fail. I just think that, you know, he's there for auxiliary backup. He's there to have these games to come in and be good. Like, let's be honest, I was the first person clapping when he outpaced De Bruyne. And rustled him off the ball, took the ball back and cleared a beauty up the line. I want him to play brilliant every game, but Matty Cash is a Polish international, and what he's done, had some brain farts this season.
And look, I haven't heard this, but Shadow says Cash is out for 3 months. I hope that's not the case. I hope that's not the case. Now, don't get me wrong. If Ashley Young can come in and play like he did last weekend, every week for the next 3 months, I'm okay with Matty Cash being out, because Ashley Young was incredible last Saturday, and you know, you have to go full circle when something like that happens. You have to put your hands up and say, okay, we know he's capable of it. Now do it every week. If he needs to be there every week, let him do it. But I think on our review or whatever it was, the last time I was on, I was saying we have Kane Clesterhayden, we have Freddie Gilbert, and I would have had either of them in ahead of Ashley Young. And now Ashley Young was brilliant, and you know, it like we can be as fickle as we want to be, but
100%. A week is a long time of football, Paddy.
But we could have played Leicester yesterday, and Ashley Young have an absolute stinker. We just don't know, and you know, as sure as eggs are eggs, Ashley Young probably would have had a stinker and probably would have been destroyed by somebody down that side.
Who knows? We can't say that for sure, but look, as I say, look, we're in a good position that Ashley Young came in and held the fort, and we got a point where we didn't expect to get a point. But I'm not quite sure on that. It was like when we watched the game against Brisbane Roar. Was it Brisbane Roar? Who did we play in our or the Man United game? There was people saying Kane Kessler-Hayden should play over Matty Cash, and that, to be honest, realistically speaking, that was never going to be viable. Like it really wasn't. From the simple fact that Matty Cash is an established Premier League footballer, Ken Kessler-Hayden has gone out on loan. He had put up a tweet, and this is not me saying that Ken Kessler-Hayden is a poor player. It's just what I'm saying is where Ken Kessler-Hayden is in his development at the moment is optimal for where Aston Villa need him to be right now. And next year we might have this conversation. But Ken Kessler had to put up a tweet recently saying, "I'm sorry, it was my mistake led to a goal." And I think if that had happened at Aston Villa, specifically if that had happened against Man City or something like that, it could crush a kid's confidence like that. He's gone out, he's learning his trade in a good team, in a good league, and by all means, he's going to be the next heir to the throne.
And in fairness, I think both of us have been persistent in what we said that he wasn't ready. So he,
well,
in my view, he was more ready than Ashley Young was until last weekend. So
yeah.
You're reserved to change your mind when Ashley Young has a performance like that, like he had last weekend. So we know he has it in his locker. So if he doesn't have that in his locker, the next time we got to play, I'll put it up there. Really random reviews said Cash is a small injury. Gerrard says a few weeks. Michael Richards is back on again there. He said 4 to 6 weeks. By the time we play again, that could be 3 weeks, 4 weeks down the line. So between international breaks and everything else, so he could be nearly ready to come back. Yeah. So look, we reserve the right to change our mind at any point at all. But I would rather see Matty Cash over Ashley Young, which was the original question.
Yeah, and I think the management, if you were to pin them to, like, if you were to ask the question in the press conference, what's the story? Like, how long? I think they would say, we see Ashley Young being able to come in for 2 or 3 games salvo to get us out of a hole. If there is a soft muscle injury, a soft tissue injury for Matty Cash. And I think if you were to ask Ashley Young would say, yeah, listen, look, I came back here with the full knowledge that I was going to be signing here to be an experienced player in the dressing room that can cover potentially both left and right back situations. And if needed, come on to close out a game and play higher up the field as well. And like, he's 37 years of age. If he and I know everybody's is a competitor, and he certainly is a competitor. But I think he can do a 2 or 3 or maybe even a 4-game situational spot for Matty Cash. But
Neil, I know that you're ready for bed, but we have another celebrity waiting to come in, and we can't just let them lie there. So we've a famous comedian waiting to put a comment in there. So Jimmy Carr is there. Welcome to the show, Jimmy Carr. And he said, I know you're heading, lads. But can Young do 3 or 4 games, 80, 90 minutes on the trot if Cash is out?
That was my answer. I just answered that one there. I think he can do 2, 3 or 4 games. Yeah. But as I say, a 38-game stint will be tough in the body for him, I think. And look, he's a supremely fit man. And look, he still is a young man. I think he might even be 37. I think he's only 36. But as I say, he's a converted fullback now at this stage in his career. He's understood that Father Time is undefeated, and he's moved back the field from that attacking midfield position or that winger position. He's doing a great job. He did a fantastic job against Kevin De Bruyne, and I think he can do a 3 or 4 game stint for sure. And I think the club do, obviously. That's why they let the likes of Ken Kessler-Hayden, and they haven't registered French Freddy either in the 20 in the 25
You know what the biggest burning question about this comment is?
Yeah.
Have we got, in fact, Jimmy Carr, the comedian, or have we got James Carr, the Mayo footballer, on the show? That's what I'd like to know. But anyway,
one thing I've learned in this podcast, Paddy, is that inter-county GAA players are disproportionately follow Aston Villa. That's one thing I found out. I'm 100% sure, because for anyone here who's Irish, the amount of inter-county footballers and hurlers and down through the years they've been Villa fans it's a little microclimate and a microcosm of itself, and it always blows my mind.
If any of them are out there and they want to come on, I know I speak on a daily basis to Michael Jacob, the former Wexford hurler. We give him a shout out. Paddy Clifford, one of the best footballers this year for Kerry, is a big Villa fan. So if any of them want to come on and tell their story, you're more than welcome.
Absolutely. Specific, and definitely if the game doesn't go ahead next Friday, we need slots to fill. So don't be shy. Do not be shy.
And one last comment from Michael Richards said, great pod as ever, lads. Hit the thumbs up button if you haven't done so already.
For sure. Lads, we got an hour and 20 minutes. The people who are going to listen back to this on the audio podcast tomorrow are going to wonder what in the name of God went on with these two lads on a Sunday night. But it was a good bit of crack. We had zero plan. I'd only one drink. Paddy had only one drink, but you guys brought the fire and you brought the questions, and we said we'd bring the crack then if we could. But thanks a million for all your questions and everything. You guys,
and we've now found out that James Carr is in fact from Donegal.
He's fierce funny
with a great left leg. Well, I presume he's funnier than me, but I have a great left leg. I reckon my left leg is better. So we'll see how that goes, James, whenever we meet up in the future.
Yeah, I certainly don't have a great left leg anyway. And David Scott says, get Mrs. Doyle on. David, I've tried.
We will. If we could.
David, I've tried. I've spoken to her PR on 3 different occasions. Mrs. Doyle, Paulie McGlynn is an Aston Villa fan, and if you think I'm not going to try my hardest to get her on the podcast, you have another thing coming, as is Brendan Gleeson. So if anybody knows Brendan Gleeson or how to get in contact with him, I'd love to get in contact with Brendan Gleeson, because he could play his low flute and his low whistle, and I'd play the harmonica along with him, and we could make a fantastic. We could be like Ronnie Drew and Luke Kelly all over again, between myself and himself. But now we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel, but we are making calls on the podcast for Irish celebrities that follow Aston Villa, that want to get it out there. This is the place to come on the nightcap, Sunday nights, 10 o'clock.
But Neil, above all else, we know that the great man knows we exist. We know that his son Jordan listens to the podcast. So, Mr. Paul McGrath, you're next. Come and have a chat. Come and have a chat with us and shoot the breeze.
Exactly, for sure. Lads, I got to get to bed, and so do all of you. Whether you like it or not, you got to go to bed because there's work in the morning. Except for Tawan. Tawan, you probably have lots of time left in the rest of your day. I don't know what time it is in Jamaica, but thanks a million for tuning in. And for everybody else all over the world who tunes in, because I know that there's a very distinct international flavour to this podcast, and we do absolutely love it. But this has been an amazing success. Nearly an hour and a half of shooting the breeze on a Sunday afternoon. Where would you get it? And thank you so much. Absolutely fantastic to everybody. So give us a like in the podcast, give us a thumbs up. If you aren't following us in the audio, please subscribe in the audio podcast. You don't even have to listen to us in the audio podcast, just hitting the subscription. That'd be cool too. It just gets us out there on the algorithms and stuff like that. But thanks so much. It's been a fantastic Sunday, and all that's left to really say is hopefully we have a game soon, and up the Villa.